Well, welcome and good afternoon, and welcome to the closing panel of our 3 amazing days with some incredible business guests across the last couple of days. I'm Joe Atkinson. I have the great privilege of serving as the Global Chief AI Officer for PwC's network of firms. And I'd like to have my co-panelists introduce themselves, and Martin, I'll start with you.
Last in, first out, is that how it works here? I'm Martin Kahn. I'm the President and COO of Cohere. We are the leading secure AI for business company in the world. We do build all of our tech from scratch. There are only 6 companies that do that. The other 5 are all primarily consumer focused and also controlled by US big tech. So the idea and some of the discussions over the last few days, and probably today as well, around independence, sovereignty, things like that, data privacy, are things that we've been doing since day one with our firm.
Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Olivier Nollent. I'm the Managing Director of SAP in France. So SAP is a German software company, one of the largest tech company in Europe, and we serve enterprise and we provide enterprise software.
And I'm Hélène Doré. I'm the Chief Transformation Officer for Finance and Legal, not just Transformation Officer, Finance and Legal. I'm sure you know L'Oréal, and if you don't, it's next door if you want to visit the booth. And I'm in charge actually of all projects to transform and project the vision of the future of finance within the organization. This is changing organizations, building sustainable finance, and also, of course, embracing AI.
So we're going to talk about how we build the foundations for a successful AI organization. We're going to talk a little bit how we move this from the ROI conversation, the point solutions, to much more of a reinvention discussion for enterprises. And we'll talk a little bit about how people are such an important part of that reinvention. So Hélène, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. What are the conditions that you try to set in your organization to actually create the mindset, the technology infrastructure to unlock the power of AI for L'Oréal?
Well, first of all, what I want to say, and I think all of you know that, but I think it's important to recall, because when we all look at those beautiful AI applications, there's a sparkle of magic that seems to pretend that it's going to be very easy to onboard on all of that. But in fact, there is no magic in plugging AI at scale. You have to have, as you said, the right conditions to make it happen. And the first condition for me definitely is data. There is no AI without the data foundation. And so if people think that because they haven't done the work on data now, it's going to be happening with AI, this is exactly the contrary. Only the companies that have really strongly structured their data infrastructure, it's a tech subject, but not only, will be in a position to reap the benefits. So for us, it's been a key topic in the last 4 or 5 years, really building this layer of data, having it qualitative on a data platform, and really replicating all of our meaningful data on this data platform. This is condition 1. The second condition is standardized processes and standardized organizations, because the next step in AI is about agentic, and agentic is actually a lot about processes. And so if your processes are different from one country to another, from one small tiny department to another, there's no way this magic of agentic is going to happen. So standardizing the processes, transversalizing the organizations with shared services, and this is what we have done in the last years at L'Oréal, I think is definitely the key. And the last point is people, as you said, and I see two sides of the question. The first one is you need to have the right skill set inside the organization to plug AI. Because you can't be just a tech person, because you also need to know what the business needs are. And business people, on the reverse, they know what they need, but they don't know enough of the tech to know what they can transform with AI. So you really need to have hybrid profiles that are able to be one foot in each of the 2 worlds to make those 2 worlds talk and speak. And this is exactly, I think, what we have done good at L'Oréal by developing those transformation teams. They are hybrid teams. They come from finance. They're trained to project management, to data and AI. And this is a very important piece in the equation. And the other one, of course, is helping people on board on that, because you can bring the best technologies, the best AI, if people don't understand how it works, don't understand what the benefits are, it's never going to deliver any value. So preparing people, upskilling them largely as a community is absolutely key.
So there was a lot there. And speaking of the best technologies, Olivier, I'll go to you. Not to leave you out, Martin, because you've got the other best technologies on the panel today. But Olivier, let me go to you. You're in the enterprise space, have been in the enterprise space for a long time. You're seeing the gaps that customers are dealing with. What are the gaps that you're seeing in that framework of the foundations for successful AI deployments?
So first, what I want to say is that, and Hélène is a good example. It moves from a tech topic to an executive business topic, and so what Hélène just said also is completely true. I could say exactly the same. So the first topic, which is extremely important right now, is data. Companies have built over time wonderful best-of-breed systems and producing data in a silo way without really real-time ability to use them. So there's a first step, which is really to work on data and to move from a best-of-breed approach actually to a platform approach to make sure that all the data are connected together. But that's not only a tech topic. From a tech point of view, you need to work on to move to this kind of platform approach. But as Hélène said, it's a business topic, and it's a cross-business topic. HR needs to talk to supply chain, to finance. Everybody needs to talk together. So it's a big shift. And the other one is actually regarding the AI. Which is done in a silo way also. I mean, you need to build an AI platform. So supply chain AI needs to talk to finance, need to talk to everybody to make sure that it's an integrated view of the company. So it's at the end, every company needs to build an AI strategy. And we see companies such as L'Oréal, I think, or other companies I know, integrating in their strategic plan actually the AI plan, because it's really part of the strategy of the company. It's not anymore a tech topic. It's a strategy-wide topic.
So Martin, let me go to you now. We had the benefit of hearing some of your perspectives on stage one with our partner Scott Likens. It feels like that was 2 days ago maybe, but it feels like maybe it was a month ago, given how VivaTech flies. But talk a little bit about that foundational question. You hit that a little bit in your talk on the importance of sovereignty, the data privacy issues, and how do we start to actually deal with AI, large language models, and training models in a way that reflects enterprise needs?
Yeah, I'll start by making a distinction that I think I mentioned even yesterday. I think I was here speaking as well. There's a huge difference between consumer AI and enterprise AI, and I think we still muddy those. And a lot of this excitement started with an app that came out November 30th, 2022. And it's incredible when you see what these consumer chatbots can do. But I have rarely in my, unfortunately, 3 decades of work experience, and I'm sure my colleagues can share that, and you yourself, seen a company of any size that can do consumer and enterprise well at the same time. SAP doesn't have consumer apps. It's an enterprise company, right? Oracle, Cisco, my old employer, Google, I was the CFO of YouTube, is a phenomenal consumer company. Google search is used by 3.3 billion people a day. What has Google done in enterprise search? 0. Because serving 3.3 billion people or 500 million chatbot users with one capability, that's SaaS, that's consumer, that's prosumer. Enterprise is like building to building combat. Every single enterprise is different. And so we only focus on enterprise. I think it's very important for everyone to not say, oh, here are some great consumer chatbots, now we're going to put them into our enterprise. It's just not the way things work. I think the second thing is a little bit of a hierarchy of needs that I see, and actually my colleagues on stage are perfect here for this illustration. At the foundational layer there are the mass market use cases, mass market things that billions of us will do every day, 10 times an hour, just like we'd use Google search. They'll just be built into Workspace, built into 365. Google, Microsoft will do very well doing that. None of us use an autocomplete app, or no one's funding, spell check startups anymore. It's just built in. The same is going to be true of the, make me a quick email, or write up some copy for marketing. It'll just be built into the stuff that we use today. I think Google has already increased the amount that they charge for workspace by a few bucks because of all the AI stuff built in. Even we use it. And so a lot of the thin wrappers on other people's tech, unfortunately, I think will be challenged because it'll be built into other stuff. But the next layer up are all of the enterprise SaaS capabilities, and they're built into every company on the planet. They're not going anywhere. They're part of the workflow, the SAPs of the world or the Salesforce of the world, Experian, Bloomberg, etc. And they, of course, are building this tech into what they do. And so if you want, I don't know, automated JD creation, don't build that yourself. You're going to have that from your service providers who will build that into what they do. Where the focus is, we believe, for differentiation is the top of that. And those are the mission critical core things that you as a company do that give you alpha, that give you things that are differentiated against your competition. And that's where you don't want to use a generic chatbot. You don't want to use the same LLM that 500 billion people use, because it's like using Gmail. It's great. It won't give you any alpha. You're still going to do the other components. You might use some for back office stuff. You're going to be relying on your close tech partners to be adding a lot more value in what they provide. But if you're a bank and you're serving high net worth individuals, if you're an oil and gas company doing downstream supply chain optimization, you're not going to do that through a third party. You're not going to do that through a generic model. And that's where I think the key is to focus on is what are those few things you can differentiate. We partner very closely with many companies, including SAP. We recently announced a deep partnership with Dell. And Michael Dell is turning the entire company into an AI company internally. And they're using our tech internally, and then they're going to be integrating this into their hardware that they ship and they send to their own corporate customers for on-prem deployment, pre-configured with our tech. But what he's done is defined, I'm not going to get it wrong, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 areas. We said that's what we do: supply chain, marketing. We're not going to worry about whether we're going to do finance. We're not going to spend time figuring that out. We'll look to our partners to figure that out for us and with us. So I think those two distinctions, consumer versus enterprise, and then what are we actually talking about? As a company, you focus on the things that give you differentiation, and those you want to do in a way that's different to your competition. That's where we focus. We do partner and power a lot of the SAPs, Oracles, Salesforces, etc. But we really work with companies who want to create alpha by doing something that's customized and configured for them, and not just a generic API call to something that 1 billion people use.
So Olivier, let me come back to you, because that's an enterprise story about partnerships and collaborations. How's SAP thinking about everything that Martin just said?
Yeah, I think it's totally right. What we're doing right now is to provide built-in AI in our solution and in lots of to power lots of processes. And so we have 3 layers actually at SAP. We have the first layer, which is the co-pilot, the way you will interact with the software. So the second one is the processes included in our solution and boosted with Gen AI. We provide also some library of agents. So and to answer your questions, for instance, 2 weeks ago we announced a partnership with Mistral AI in the finance space. Sorry, to automatize what we call in French provision. You will help me.
Accruals.
Accruals in English.
I know what that means too.
So now we know. But really, this is a very painful a task for a finance organization. So you will have an agent to do it for you, and we'll provide as many agents as we can. So and our customers will be able to use what they want and really to focus on. This is the third layer of our strategy. In our platform, you will find an AI studio to develop what's really your differentiation. What's important for you as a company? What's specific for you actually?
So Hélène, given that landscape, you're receiving all of that innovation, all of that ideation, all of that capability. Maybe share how you think about turning that into actual performance for your team. What are the measures that you worry about? What are the measures that maybe we used to worry about that we should worry less about in the future?
Well, that's a difficult question, but that's a very important one, because obviously moving into AI is not something that you do at 0 cost. It costs money to build those AI infrastructures, and to be able to have that money available, you have to shift your resources to fund this AI, but you also have to prove what the value of those investments is going to be. And this is a difficult question because obviously since it's new, it's difficult to envision how much of value you're going to be able to capture. So it's something we're working a lot at L'Oréal, and this is particularly a topic that's relevant for me as a finance person. And this is definitely something we discuss a lot as our mission in finance. We think that in the world in which we are, the companies that will continue to remain strong in the future and create values are companies that are future fit, are companies that are embracing transformations and turning them into value opportunities. And obviously data and AI is part of those transformations. And so if we limit ourselves finance to pure financial performance, we will miss the evaluation of how much those transformations are valuable. So we need to shift the matrix that we are using for evaluating this. But once we have said that, what other matrix do we need to invent? I think there's one first, which is absolutely key, is adoption. I mentioned that before. I think it's a huge change for our people to embrace those new ways of working. And even though people are willing to move on that, it's such a change that you have to accompany them. And people will not adopt like that. And if you have no adoption, you have no value because you give yourself no chance to harness the benefit of the technology. So for us, and this is something we measure now a lot, is the adoption. For all of my dashboards, for all of my algorithm, we now have an indicator where we track how many users every month are using them, and we're analyzing region by region, country by country to understand why in some areas we're not using enough, retraining people, re-explaining the benefits. So I think you have to definitely dedicate a lot of energy on adoption. On adoption, there's another topic which I believe is very important, is specifically on Gen AI, where the usage is not like other tools, in the sense that, and this is really something that I feel in my transformation team, before we were building tools with a predefined usage, and we were training people for that usage, end of the story. With Gen AI, you develop a capability that can be used in multiple ways. So you don't set the way people are going to use it. You bring them to the awareness of what it can do, and then you have to help them unleash their creativity and their reflex to use the technology anytime or in any case that it would make sense to use it. And that's a very different approach to usage and adoption. And you have to detect within your community those people that are particularly compatible with this creativity, those people that intuitively, natively are going to become superstars, super users, and you have to leverage those super users to show the rest of the community the range of the possibilities that they can themselves start adopting. And then let me say one word on value, because it would be too easy to escape just talking about adoption. On value, I think there are, I would say, different types of value that we capture with AI. The first one for me is a value of efficiency. Clearly, we gain time. We all gain time by using some AI application. How do we measure that is complex, because it necessitates that you would be in a position to always compare the time that you would spend on a given task before and after using AI. But we're starting to have discussions and matrix on that. That's one. The second one for me in terms of value is a value of attraction and reputation, in the sense that companies that will fall behind that game in terms of adopting AI will not be companies that will be in a position to attract the best profiles tomorrow. So even though you're not yet fully able to prove the full efficiency, not onboarding, not taking the decision to onboard on AI is a value destruction somehow. So I think those two aspects are definitely key. And the last one I would say is a value of transformation and revolution of the processes, because the reality is you don't plug AI on a process that exists. You actually transform completely the process so that you can embed AI inside. And therefore there's a value in the way you're going to twist, you're going to make your processes work differently, and work probably more and more end-to-end, as Olivier was saying. And this value, intrinsic value, is huge in the end.
It's really, there's a lot of great content in what you just said, and we live a lot of it ourselves. 375,000 people around the world. We live on a rates and hours model in our business that is thankfully dying slowly. But I always say it's a terrible way to measure value. It's outcomes and return. So Martin, I'm going to come to you, and you don't have to name names as I set up this question, but I imagine there are companies that you go to that you walk away from the meeting and you say they get it and they're ready to move in a meaningful way. And there's companies that you go to that you say they're not ready yet. What are the kinds of characteristics that make you change your mind from one side to the other when you're talking with a company?
We're still a fairly small company, so we focused, I've been here for about 2.5 years now, we focused on working with a relatively small number of the most sophisticated, demanding, respected enterprises on the planet, because we don't have the time to work with everyone, and to your point, you can't spin circles. There's a couple answers to your question there. One is that, and whether it's there at the beginning or whether we do it over time, every single one of our deep partnerships, we work extremely deeply. We are the AI partner for Fujitsu in Japan, LG in Korea, SDC in Saudi. I mentioned Dell. We work closely with SAP. We're basically deploying our North Agentic AI platform within RBC, which is one of the most advanced banks in the world, Aramco, etc. They're all the leader in their sector. But what it requires is that we engage as Cohere on 3 levels with 3 personas, and it has to be all 3 very deeply. The first one is the CEO and the business leadership. And every one of the ones that I mentioned, it's Dave Mackay at RBC, it's Olivier at STC, personally, Larry and Safra at Oracle. We're built into pretty much everything that Oracle does. And they're the ones who say, we are going to do this. I mentioned the Michael Dell point. And then I'm going to go to the bookends. At the other end, it's the AI ML leaders. And of course, they're the ones that need to know, okay, you do have cool tech. Oh, Aiden is one of the Transformers inventors. You've got Patrick Lewis who invented RAG. You've got Nils Reimers. Your tech is good. Like, you know what you're doing and you engage. The one that many people forget is the middle. And those are I don't want to say legacy or traditional because it's dismissive, but the tech leadership. AI ML leadership and tech leadership is not the same thing. And what has happened over the last 2 years is that everyone's been playing around with APIs and taking 27 models and doing things. It's a bit like going to, I'm going to date myself, Radio Shack, going to a store to buy bits and pieces to build a transistor radio like I did when I was a kid. Like, that's not how you create enterprise-grade capabilities, by getting a soldering iron out and gluing transistors together. But that's what people are doing now. Every AI ML team, the researchers say, we want to build our own stuff. And then they come to the CTO, the CISO, the CIO, the GC, and they say no. So RBC is a great example. They have a phenomenal team internally, AI/ML team. They're fantastic. Dr. Fotani leads it. It's called Borealis. RBC has 14 risk departments and the federal regulator. They had 192 things they wanted to work on. I don't think they went to BCG, my old employer, to get them paid millions for that, but they didn't need more ideas. They didn't need more cool tech. They had all that. What they needed was a way to get the 14 risk departments and the federal regulator to agree to do stuff. And that is the boring, we're in France, shitty, pardon my French, yucky stuff that no one writes articles about. It's the 90% of the iceberg underwater. And that's the stuff that people forget. And unless you're engaged, unless the CTO looks at, on our team, Autumn, who leads infra and security, oh, look at all the scars on your back. You know what I'm talking about. It's not going to work. You'll do some nice demos. You'll do the 301st POC. Your board will be excited. It will not roll out in production at scale. And that's the key thing that we focus on, is we only work with companies who will roll out in production at scale. We don't do POCs. We literally do not do them. We will do a pilot, but that means we're deploying in your data environment, hooked up to your data sources, in some cases customizing for the specific content of what you want to do, and if that's 3 months to see if it works, great. Once it does, you can roll that out immediately. RBC, we started work in January. I think they're going to announce next week they're rolling out to about 10,000 people. STC wants to do 7,000 in July. So these are massive deployments at scale in a short number of months. I think to what you were saying, we hear the same thing from companies all over. We don't want to build our own transistor radios. Can you abstract the 90% of the stuff underwater and help us get that done quickly to accelerate time to value? That's why we developed North, our agentic AI platform. vertically integrated. It's our generative models, our embeddings, re-rank, chunking, parsing, best search and retrieval capabilities, all the custom connectors and standard connectors to your data sources in your data environment, so that when you want to do the 5th, 10th, 50th, 100th agent, your own people can do it in a complete no-code way. They can have the creativity, they need zero MLE capability to do that. And so that's what we always say, is the ones who say, I want to get into production, and it's the CEO saying, I want 10,000 people using it by July. And now let's do the yucky stuff with someone who understands that. Philip said something on stage yesterday that he loved the fact that we were already, I don't even know what it, ISO 207 compliant or something, which was a big deal for SAP. And it's like, well, how do you think we got into Oracle, Cisco, Salesforce, you know? So it really is the difference between playing at the AI/ML level and doing some cool stuff, getting the CEO and leadership on board, but very importantly, having the tech leadership who knows the yucky stuff say, I have a partner who's going to help me figure that out, get into production at scale. Because those who do it, as you said, it's probably not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth use case that's going to change things. It's maybe the 50th. But if you're so much quicker to get to the 50th because you've done all this work, it's the same as 30 years ago if you were quick adopting digital or SaaS or cloud compared to others.
So well said. And Olivia, I'm going to come to you with one more question, because we're going to go to the audience here in a moment, make sure we get some audience input. But now thinking about your embedded base, long history of companies that have a lot of legacy capability, how are you advising your clients to unlock that performance in a world where everything's changing so rapidly, the expectations are changing, and you have all the talent challenges we've talked about?
So actually what we're doing right now at SAP is this move urge our customers to modernize their backbone, their IT backbone, their enterprise backbone. So what we are doing right now, which is actually the fuel for growth for SAP, is the move to cloud of our ERP. And so it's so we have a strategy which is AI first, but which is also suite first. And what we are introducing right now is the concept of best of breed suite, actually. So it's not coming back to the old ERP. So at the beginning, but actually, I mean, what we just said all together is that to get the full potential of AI, I mean, you need to have data connected, solutions connected, to be able to produce real-time data and to use it. So that's actually what we advise to our customers. Try to work on the foundation, to modernize your foundation, to make sure that you have the full benefit of AI. The second thing that we advise also, as a company, is that we are lucky to have in our system lots of rich data, very important data for the companies, but that's not the only one. So you need to be able to mix these data with other systems, or also with data coming from outside. So for instance, we have done a partnership with a company called Databricks to make sure that in a new solution which is called Business Data Cloud, that you are able to mix your SAP data without moving this data, to keep the rich context of this data, to mix it with other data. And then we are doing lots of partnership with companies to make sure that you have an open environment to leverage the richness of the data and to have the full value of AI.
Fantastic. We're doing a lot of partnerships ourselves, so thank you for the partnership. So with that, let me open it up to questions from the audience. These are the diehards of VivaTech. These are the folks that have seen day 3 through. So you get to ask any question. They may or may not answer it, but any question is fair game.
Hello, so I'm a fellow Canadian. Go Habs go. The CEO of Shopify recently said, I don't allow you to hire new employees unless you can prove that AI cannot do the job itself. So maybe the question more for Hélène or Joe, is that something that you kind of see would happen in your company? And if not, you know why?
Hélène, do you want to? It's a nice hard question. Would you like to take that one?
That's a hard one. No, we're not thinking this way, because at L'Oréal, the people factor matters a lot. We definitely believe that the company has been very successful in the last 100 and some years because of our people. So our story about AI is not about using AI to replace our people. We're really thinking AI to augment our people. But to be able to augment people, you still need to have people, right? So augmentation, and really, this is my conviction. It's a question of augmentation, because let me come back to on use cases of mine in finance. You know, a lot of the time that is spent by finance people is about doing the simulation of the forecast of the future. Well, AI can be very good at that, but you can't do that only with AI. Why? Because the future is not just the reproduction of the past. It's a combination of this algorithmic simulation, but also a lot of the business bets that you want to put into the future. So to be able to do that, you need to have people, finance people, that understand the business, that understand our products, understand the landscape of our customers, and are going to be able to really criticize, enrich the data, the assumptions, the business bets that we're going to be putting into the simulation. So again, for us, not this mindset, but more a mindset of augmenting our people.
I'll add one data point. If any of you were able to join Pete Brown and his panel here just probably an hour ago, we just released our global AI jobs barometer. We looked at almost 1 billion job postings to make a judgment about where our jobs were going. And even in the AI automatable jobs, which unlike the ones Hélène just described of augmentable, even in the automatable jobs were growing. So there was growth both in automatable and in augmentable, and people with AI skills, which goes to the upskilling story we've been telling, actually we're seeing significant wage premiums. So I do think that with the right mindset, the upskilling, will there be displacement? Of course. There's going to be certain jobs that, if some of us have been around for a while, since we had the Radio Shack reference, some of us have been around for a while. There's jobs that we used to have in our offices that don't exist anymore. But I have more people working at PwC today than we've ever had. So with that, one more question? Perfect. I'm looking for the guide at the table, so we'll take one more question. Yep, right there. It's the last question of the last business panel on the last day of the business. No pressure, but we're rooting for you for a great question.
I feel special, thank you. Well, it will be a general question to Mr. Con. Thank you to you all, first of all. Mr. Con, you mentioned, please correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned that big enterprises should not use the model that is being used by 300,000 people. So let's say if we have a giant enterprise, either in energy, automotive industry, should be build our model from scratch, or like, could you maybe repeat that part again?
Yeah, thank you for the question. To clarify, no, absolutely not. The analogy that I've used that I find helpful, but I like the taste of my own Kool-Aid, of course, is that when people say, oh, these models are becoming commoditized, that's a bit like saying electricity is commoditized. It's really, really hard to make electricity. You know, you need to build a nuclear power plant. We're in France, I can say that. 2 weeks ago in Germany, I probably couldn't. And we've happened to build a nuclear power plant. So have a small number of others. And what's happened over the last couple of years is that people have walked around saying, do you want to buy 25 kilowatt hours? You know, do you want 10% discount on Fridays? Meaning, look at my tokens, look at my API, look how my electricity is on some, meaningless scoreboard about how well it plays Pokemon or whatever. Has nothing to do with how it's going to do in your business environment. What we think is the real focus, at least as I said, for the top of that, you're going to have your providers, your partners like SAP, who themselves have fantastic technology that they develop, they configure and customize to provide service to you. But if you're going to do something that, as a shipbuilder, that's going to allow you to beat the Chinese competitors in a big contract or something like that, you want to have capabilities that are unique to you. The point is, what you do is you start the marathon on kilometer 41, or in Paris, and that's what we do, for example, and maybe there are a few others. But the 5 companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, X, Google, and Meta, they're all driven by US big tech. They have generalist models. Yeah, you can fine-tune them, but it's like a cake where you can decide if you want chocolate sprinkles or rainbow sprinkles. You don't know the recipe of the cake. You can't unbake it. You can't change it into a different type of cake. It's pretty much what it is, and you can tweak it and twiddle it a little bit. It's not that much. We believe for demanding enterprises, they would want to say, we want to mix in our own proprietary data. If you take in Aramco, they've got 90 years of incredible information. They're never letting that out through an API somewhere. We actually can, because we bake the cakes, unbake the cake, mix in different ingredients, rebake it, and it's something that is very quickly something completely unique to them, their needs, to serve their customers, to serve themselves internally. Just one example, and I'll hand it back. We work closely with Fujitsu. We work with many in Japan, but we have a very deep partnership with them. And we have taken our technology and customized and configured it to create something. They call it Takane, which is Cohere in Japan, basically. And it is objectively better than everything else in the market, including our own technology. So Hitachi, NEC, Accenture, maybe PwC, whoever, can go to companies in Japan and say, we can use OpenAI, we can use Cohere, we can use Anthropic, whatever. Fujitsu says, but we have Takane, and it's better than anything, and the only place to get it is here. And so for them as a tech services provider, I think they had 85 companies saying, we want to work with you. Takane V1.0, we did in 6 weeks. So it's not like it takes, eons and eons. And of course, we variabilize that cost. So it's not, we need, 500 million for GB200s, and we need to hire 50 data scientists who you couldn't afford anyway, and, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great question. I think it's the customization and configuration, much more deeply than just, parameter efficient fine tuning, to create something that then is exactly what you need to continue to create alpha for your company, and doing that in partnership with a tech partner that wants to actually customize it that way. I'm just saying, to my point, that's diametrically opposed from the idea that we now want 600, 700, 800 million consumers or prosumers using something, which is by definition a scale game, as opposed to the building to building combat working with enterprise.
So thank you. Thanks for a great question. I think you were up to the moment and maybe even more, so thank you for that. I want to ask you all to join me in thanking our panelists for a really terrific discussion. So thank you so much.